Mister The Prequels presents The Prequels. Right, we got that out of the way. And we have a lot to talk about today, man. James Gunn Superman, looking good from the set pictures. That's all I've seen of it. I don't know anything about the story or the script, but so far I like the suit. And here I want to take a look at this other suit, this Superman suit, the Tyler Hoechlin Superman suit. And I celebrate all of the actors that have played Superman. And they've given Superman, each of them, their own style and their own personality and passion to the character of Superman. And Superman is a real thing. Do not doubt it. Superman is a real thing, as in your imagination or some person's imagination. Whether you think of that as in a book or a movie or as lived out, as someone lives out according to they look up to Superman, so their fantasy is to be Superman, and so they live this way in their mind while they do other things like check out somebody at the supermarket, at the register, or tear out the old carpet and install new plumbing or whatever. You know, and you're there, you're doing something, but really what you're doing is you're Superman fighting Brainiac or, you know, saving or rescuing Kandor or something like that. And so Superman's real, but it's all in your imagination. But your imagination is real. And if you don't think your imagination is real, then I just recommend you pick up any issue of Superman and just start reading it. And you're going to see that imagination is a real thing and Superman's real. But as in terms of the actors that have played Superman on either the big screen at the movies, so to speak, or on the small screen on television. Speaking in those terms, big screen and small screen. And Superman has been played by many different people, including Supergirl has been played by many different people. And many of the different Superman villains, so to speak, have been played by various other actors and have been portrayed by on various platforms, animation, cartoons, live action theater. Like if you've ever seen Superman, the play, now I forgot what the title of it was, but a friend of mine did one years ago in San Bernardino, Chris Gomez, who's also a filmmaker, and he, of course, wrote the play and starred in this play. It's a one-man play, Superman. I think it might have been called Superman the Play, but of course he would do reading hour as Superman, and he's just a real guy. And when he's dressed up as Superman, he's really Superman, and that's just the way it is. So Superman is a real thing, and when a person puts on that suit and they step into that role, they become Superman, and Superman is real. Whether to a 10-year-old or to a 10 plus 80-year-old, Superman is real. Once that actor puts on that suit, that actor's gone. Superman is there. Kal-El, disguised strange visitor from another planet. you know, Kal-El from Krypton. And now he is disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper. And, of course, he's fighting for truth and justice and the American way. And this goes back to the George Reeves Superman, one of my favorites. Actually, I think my favorite. So here I'm going to rank all of them. It's off the top of my head. There's different versions here. My favorite, the gold standard, and then the gold standard for various reasons. Reasons-wise, all around, thoroughly the most, I would say, the standard for Superman in our time. At the time of this recording of this video, these tapes, it's Tom Welling from the TV series. This is small screen now, Smallville, and Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor, and then I can't remember the actor's name that played Lionel Luthor, but it'll come to me. John Glover, Lionel Luthor. It's just amazing. Set the trilogy there, that cast there of Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman, and then Lex Luthor, and then Lionel Luthor. The show was pretty good. Had its ups and downs, you know, like all TV does. But as far as Superman goes, Tom Welling is the essential Superman, I would say. Some might even say he's the gold standard Superman. But that's like having a conversation about the James Bond. Like, who's your favorite and who's the best? Okay, let me rank these now. As far as my favorite goes. And if I have to change my mind, I'll throw it in there. But just coming up with these now off the top of my head. Growing up with Superman. And these are the live actors playing Superman. Not the cartoon, not the animated version. But growing up with Superman, and then I will tell you my favorite version. I grew up with Superman. It was a cartoon, Superman. And Superman said, "Great Scott," and up, and away. Or might have been, "Great Scott, up, and away," something like that. And then he to change into Superman, he'd start peeling off his clothes, and then he would go into a utility closet or some kind of like a broom closet or something. He would change his clothes in there. But every Superman would have his own way of the transformation from Clark Kent to Superman. And this Superman, this cartoon Superman, his style was to just simply start taking his clothes off, take his hat off, take his clothes off. And then, of course, that's what George Reeves did. He would start taking his hat off, taking his shirt off, unbuckling his, or rather unlacing his tie. And then he'd always look for a room to go into. And then he'd fly out of the window of that room, by jumping out of the window of that room. So I always liked that approach. Just the basic, let me find a room, let me change into Superman. But we know from the comic books that Superman pulls open his shirt to reveal the S underneath. That's the iconic look. Iconic. Possibly one of the most iconic looks in the history of all cinema or comic books is that happening of the shirt being ripped open, and there you see the S. And this brings us to Christopher Reeve, Kirk Allen. I never watched the Kirk Allen series, but he looked like a good Superman in terms of, he had the look, the strongman look. George Reeves had the strongman look, and then later in color version. And then, of course, Christopher Reeve, and now I'm going to say he's the gold standard here. Christopher Reeve is the gold standard Superman all time. Looks like he just came right out of the pages of DC Comics, man. I'm talking comic books, man. Not, come on, man. This ain't no DCU. This ain't no MCU. This is straight up. I mean, if you thought Superman wasn't real, just take a look at Christopher Reeve in Superman the movie. Believe me, man. Not only are you going to believe a man can fly, you're going to believe Superman is real. Superman, the gold standard, all-time Christopher Reeve. Come on. Nobody is going to match that. Never is it ever going to be matched again. And Henry Cavill looks good. He's passionate. Brings it as Superman, but come on, man. He would even say he's got big shoes to fill. He's following an act that you just can't follow and exceed that in terms of being the gold standard. Henry Cavill is a great Superman, and he does not disappoint in any way. No, he lacks nothing in terms of Superman, except I would say they should have put the briefs on that costume, which they did not. I don't know what's going on there. For some reason, these modern filmmakers and these modern writers of Superman, they don't want Superman looking like a strong man anymore. And I will grant this, and granted, he's supposed to be an alien. So why would he come out here dressing like a strong man? Well, because his mom made his suit. Well, if his mom made his suit in 1938, of course he'd look like a strong man, I guess. But if his mom made the suit in 1996, would he still look like a strong man? I don't know. Well, here we come to Dean Cain. And I happen to think that Dean Cain's suit is possibly, man, I think it's one of the best Superman suits out there. The Dean Cain Superman suit. And then also the Christopher Reeve Superman suit. But Dean Cain, also one of my favorite versions of Superman. One of the great renditions of Superman, both in writing and as an actor will portray Superman. Dean Cain, one of my favorites. I love the suit, the costume, if you will. Also, by the way, Terry Hatcher, fantastic Lois Lane. Amazing Lois Lane. Great, perfect. That show is still one of my favorites. The New Adventures of Superman, Lois and Clark. Really good. I highly recommend it. I give the series a 10 out of 10 overall. It even got better as it went on, and I think it was canceled, if I can use that word too early. It was really good show, a really good representation of Superman, and I want to congratulate all the people that had everything to do with it. Great cast. Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane. Man, they had all kinds of villains on that show. And Superman portrayed just perfectly, in my opinion, by Dean Cain. Great job by Dean Cain playing Superman. He's one of the best, one of my favorite versions of Superman. So Christopher Reeve, George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, Tom Welling. Also, Superboy. There was a Superboy series in the 80s, in the late 80s, or mid 80s, and Superboy was played by two actors, and I don't remember which was which, their name or whatever, but that was a pretty good series in terms of special effects and quality of production, the money that was put into it. Also, the suit and the actor that they had playing Superboy. I think both of the actors looked pretty good, but I didn't watch the series, so I don't know. Oh, also on New Adventures of Superman, Lois and Clark, Lex Luthor. And really good version. I wish they would have been able to explore that a little bit more in that series as it went on, because it had an anthology feel. There was a continuity to it. And it was a somewhat more updated version of Clark Kent than we had seen in the Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner version, so to speak, where Clark Kent was somewhat more of a bumbling nerd, if you will. And in the Superman, Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman, Lois and Clark is just more of a regular reporter that is a downplayed guy. He's not over the top. And I think that's a great version of Superman, as well as Clark Kent. Superman, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. It's a great series. I highly recommend it. So we got George Reeves, The Adventures of Superman, Superman the movie. Hey, Christopher Reeve as Superman. Superman the movie, Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. They're all great movies if you want to see Superman doing Superman things and you want to see him played by Christopher Reeve, then you're going to watch every single one of those movies and have a great time. But they're not all the same quality movies. I would say the best quality movie is Superman the movie, and then if you just want to have a really good time, just start in on the following movies: Superman 2, Superman 3, and Superman 4, and just have a great time. Don't think too hard about it. Just have a great time and enjoy Superman doing Superman things, and just look at Christopher Reeve playing Superman. Perfect! The gold standard. Okay. Next up. Also, the same goes for George Reeves as Superman. The Adventures of Superman. Perfect for its time. Perfect for the actor playing Superman, including in that costume, I will add. So, it's a great version of that Superman. You get to see the origin story in that one also. The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. And then now we're looking at, so we look at Superman the movie, Superman with Christopher Reeve, and then Dean Cain. Now I'm going to just touch real quick on some of the other versions that I've seen, and one of them is Brandon Routh. I am not going to gloss over or pass by or leave out Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh is iconically still one of the best Superman actors ever. Also, iconically one of the best Superman actors ever to be in one of the worst Superman movies ever. Brandon Routh, man, I would say if I was going to pick a guy to play Superman that you wanted to look like Superman and be able to act like Superman, Brandon Routh. And we all know how that turned out in Superman Returns. Superman Returns is one of the worst movies ever made. But it's not because people that were making it didn't want to make a good version of Superman. Bryan Singer did not have a handle on what he was supposed to be doing there with Superman, is what was going on. Pretty sure. But the suit was not a good suit. That was not a good Superman look. It was just a weird movie, and it was just boring, and the test footage looked great. You got a lot of good test footage from that, and also you got a lot of good shots and scenes of Brandon Routh doing Superman things. You got a lot of good Superman stuff, man. There's a lot of good stuff in there about Superman doing cool Superman stuff. But it's like test footage. That's what it feels like. That's what it looks like. Hey, look, man, I didn't like the suit, whatever. I can get past that. Just make a good movie. Show me a good movie. I already have the actor. I mean, Kevin Spacey, he's a pretty good actor. You know, and I'll leave it at that. But what did they do with the movie? Where's the movie? What'd you do with the script? So, what happened to the script? I don't know. But I'll tell you what they did was they made a smart decision by bringing Brandon Routh back as Superman in Crisis. Right, CW. And, man, he improved the suit. He had the Kingdom Come look. And he got to have a really good turn as Superman. Finally, in a bit of good writing. And then Tyler Hoechlin brings me to Tyler Hoechlin. I don't want to leave off yet on Brandon Routh, because we got to see Superman fight Superman, and not just in Superman 3, which was pretty cool. but Superman versus Superman in Crisis. And Brandon Routh, I want to see a Kingdom Come. I don't even want to see a Kingdom Come movie. I want to see a Kingdom Come. You know what? I'm starting to agree with Alan Moore here. Comic books should not be made into movies. It just doesn't translate well. It's a different thing altogether. It's not a comic book movie. It's a movie that somebody made. It's an idea that somebody had that they turned into a movie. These ideas came from a lot of things, and there's motivations for these things. And they're not comics. But people want these books to be turned into movies so they can watch in moving pictures and sound what they read one time when they were a kid or as an adult, and then they had it now in their imagination and they want to see it. They want somebody now to tell them what it is that they have been looking at all of these years. And I think that's the problem with these new Superman versions, is that now that we have these Superman actors and versions, and then we see their real lives and all this stuff, and we see all the special effects, and now what's happened is Superman's no longer real. So let's take it back to your imagination. Tyler Hoechlin, congratulations, great job, great, man, super. I haven't watched the series, I don't like the color palette, writing seems good, Superman actors, great. But again, for various reasons, I'm not going to jump into certain versions of Superman, and I'm not going to jump into certain versions of anything if I'm just not into the way it's presented. But to each their own. So, I love certain versions of Superman. I love certain versions of Star Wars. I love certain versions of Marvel characters as they're presented by certain writers and artists. But in a movie, these are my favorites. Superman, in this order. George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, Tom Welling. And I would say, in no particular order, are those the best versions of Superman. And then I would say, now in terms of the gold standard for Superman, the standard by which all other versions of Superman are to be measured, and this is my opinion, again, this is my opinion, the gold standard of Superman is how it should be measured, that character to be portrayed in a movie or in a screen, live action, small screen, big screen, whatever, is Christopher Reeve. That's the gold standard. That's the top. Equal to that standard, it's a little different, Tom Welling. Christopher Reeve, Tom Welling. And then Dean Cain. And then George Reeves. Now, I don't want to leave out the good work, the fine work that either the movie makers did or the actors that portrayed on these movies of the current version of Superman, Man of Steel, which was amazingly directed, really well done, pulled off. Like, talk about pulling the whatever it was that was in the fire. You got it out of there just in time before it burned up. What a mess Joss Whedon made of the Justice League by Zack Snyder. I don't know the full story, but I do know this. We have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it is pretty much as close as I could have ever seen to a comic book that came to life on the screen. As for terms of, it was a little over the top, but the iconic imagery of presentation, introduction to certain characters such as Darkseid and the Steppenwolf, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, The Flash, Aquaman, movie versions, no doubt. But Henry Cavill, this guy is a great version of Superman. And look what they have done by simply sweeping him. Not only did they sweep him under the rug, then they pulled the rug out and just threw it away. Yeah, I don't know, man. I do not think Henry Cavill got his just due as Superman. But not as bad as they did to Brandon Routh, man. Come on. Not as bad as they did to Brandon Routh. But I'm glad they brought Brandon Routh back through Crisis, in Crisis. So my favorite Superman actors now, to close this off, George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Tom Welling, Dean Cain, Brandon Routh. Look, I have a lot of respect for Henry Cavill. He's just not one of my favorite versions of Superman. Okay, let me switch right over real quick. Look, he's a great Superman. I just don't put him in the Hall of Supermans. I just don't. Not in mine. Okay, but I love Henry Cavill. Hey, man, no disrespect to Henry Cavill, okay? But come on, man. The DCU, somebody did Henry Cavill dirty, and they did justice at least to Henry Cavill in the Zack Snyder Justice League trilogy, where you have Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and then of course, so Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, and these are the Zack Snyder versions, right? And then of course now it brings me to Batman. Ben Affleck as Batman, Christian Bale as Batman, Adam West as Batman, Kevin Conroy as Batman, Michael Keaton as Batman. These are the actors that I'm thinking of when I think of Batman. Actors that have played Batman, that have been, again, iconically identified with and as Batman. And Kevin Conroy, both in the animated universe and in Crisis. So, I would say of my favorite versions of Batman, it comes with the platform. It's part of it is in the platform. Christian Bale, perfect for that trilogy, the Nolan trilogy. Michael Keaton, great, man, for that world, that universe. And now, Michael Keaton does not work in the Flash universe. Laughable. Come on. The Flash was such a laughable movie, but I had a good time watching it. And I'll watch it again and again. It's literally like popcorn and cotton candy with soda pop. The Flash is like if you took Superman Returns and made it a good movie. I don't know how to say it else than that. But Michael Keaton in The Flash, laughable. But let's forget the Flash movie for a second, because that also had a really good monologue delivered by Bruce Wayne, played by, of course, Ben Affleck. Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. And it's one of the greatest monologues ever. And so to that I say, nice, good. I'm great. I'm glad for that. Great job. But in terms of Batman, no, that was not what I wanted to see. But Ben Affleck as Batman in the Snyderverse, right? Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, not the Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's one of the greatest versions of Batman ever. I would say that Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman in Zack Snyder's Justice League is my favorite version, and possibly the gold standard for Batman if you want the grittiest, most hardcore Batman you can get. That's a good one that we've seen so far. And we'll see how dirty they're going to do Ben Affleck too. They might do him dirty as well. And we're all getting done dirty here, man, by the DCU. Come on! What's James Gunn doing with the DCU? That's a topic for another day. Mystery box. Come on. Don't get me started, man, on J.J. Abrams or Jake Lloyd. That guy deserves an Oscar, man. Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar. Okay, that's another topic. That's a story for another day. Don't get me started on J.J. Abrams, man. That guy's a weirdo. All-time weirdo. Remember the time, I'm going to get back to the Batman, but remember the time that my ranking of my favorite live-action Batman characters. Right. But remember the time that J.J. Abrams had that bird tapping on that log so that we would all think that when we saw The Force Awakens, we were going to see a bunch of puppets and people tapping on logs, and then we saw The Force Awakens and it was trash. Come on, man. Garbage. Bring back George Lucas or just trash it. Shut it down. Bring back George Lucas or shut it down. Shut it down. All of it. It's all trash. The Acolyte, trash. Well, Ahsoka was pretty good. Kind of. Okay, it's only partial. Not. Well, I'm not going to call it trash. You know what? The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, I would say pretty good. Acolyte, I'm just going to say it's garbage. It's trash. But not because the people that put their work into it aren't talented. They did everything they were supposed to do. They did everything they were told to do, and it turns out what they were told to do is garbage. Don't even get me started on Jake Lloyd or Jar Jar Binks, man. Jake Lloyd deserves an Oscar, and Ahmed Best deserves an Oscar. Let's get going on this thing, man. Somebody get me Bradley Cooper on the line, and can we raise, how much does it cost to put somebody's star on the Walk of Fame? Can somebody put together a couple of bucks here, $50, $7,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $150? Somebody get me Bradley Cooper on the line so we can get Jake Lloyd a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Is it that hard? Man, bunch of weirdos out there. A lot of weirdos out there. Okay, the prequels is the best Star Wars. Now let's get back to Batman. Don't even get me started, man, on J.J. Abrams. That guy's a weirdo. Okay, Batman. Favorite versions. Ones I grew up with. Adam West as Batman. Oh, I grew up with Batman and the Super Friends. My favorite version of Batman, I've got to say, I think is honestly, really, look, let me lay it out for you. Adam West. I grew up with him. He was my first ever Batman, and in him, I learned about all of these Bat gadgets and the Bat Cave and the Bat boat, the Bat copter, the Bat plane, the Batmobile. This guy had it all, man. Adam West's Batman is one of the greatest versions of Batman ever. I love that one. Also, there was an animated version, a cartoon. I think it was in the late 60s or 70s, late 70s possibly. Or maybe I might have been watching it as reruns, and it featured Batmite. And the voice of Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin, respectively. And it featured Batmite, and now Batmite is canon. And that's all. That was one of my favorite versions as well, because I loved Adam West, and I still love Adam West as Batman. I think my favorite. And I got to meet Adam West from a distance at a panel in Los Angeles. Actually it was a WizardCon. Might have been in Anaheim. And they were on a panel, and I got to ask him a question, and Catwoman as well there. And I said, actually, I can't remember the name of the actress that was Catwoman, which one it was, but I said to Adam West there, Mr. West, I said, when are they coming out with the complete DVD set of the complete Batman original series with you as Batman and Burt Ward as Robin, with you doing the commentary? I want you and Burt Ward to do the commentary. When are they coming out with that? And he goes, Adam West goes, well, show me the money. Show me the money. Adam West is a classic, man. He's my favorite Batman. I think, now let's get into the gold standard Batman. Kevin Conroy, this is a tough one. I would say consistently Kevin Conroy holds the place with Batman that Tom Welling holds with Superman. It's just a long-term, consistent TV series that is Batman, where that actor plays Batman, and that is the most iconically golden standard of Batman for that kind of a presentation. But for a one-shot movie, I will say Ben Affleck, the best version of Batman in Batman v Superman. Or possibly, but I mean, Batman v Superman and Justice League, they're meant to be watched together. And in that version, Ben Affleck's Batman is the gold standard Batman, if that version, if you want to look at it that way. But you have to see him in a different context. And then finally, the best origin story of Batman, I would dare say, is Batman Begins. Over and out, period. That's just it. You can't have a better version than that. And then finally, the best Batman movie, Dark Knight. It's got to be it, man. Dark Knight. And Heath Ledger as the Joker. Oh, this brings me to the best versions of the Joker, and that'll be for the next one. But I will just give a couple of shout outs. Everybody knows, everybody agrees, Mark Hamill, 10 out of 10 Joker, might be the gold standard Joker. But I will tell you, my favorite version of the Joker, Cesar Romero. Man, he's the other one, right? He's the other gold standard. So you've got the gold standard in a lot of characters for different versions. Like if you put, like, here's a good question. If you matched up these different versions with each other, who would win? Or which ones would be most compatible or least compatible or contrasted with or to or against the various versions of the Joker? Both the animated versions, the live action versions, and the small screen or whatever. I would say that Mark Hamill, Batman, the Mark Hamill version, and then of course you have the Cesar Romero version, and then you have Heath Ledger from Dark Knight. So you have, of all three of those, I would say they would be equally strong with each other, and I think that they would, all three of them, actually get along with each other. The Joker's really crazy, but he's mad. He's mad. The Joker's intelligent, but the Joker's mad. So, that's all the time we have for today. I'll leave you on that note. The Joker's mad. But there you go, friends. My ranking of Superman. All in, I would say my favorite is George Reeves. The gold standard is Christopher Reeve. The gold standard for the most consistently presented over a long anthology time period, Tom Welling. And then, of course, favorite, I would say that my favorite version of the suit is, and one of my favorite versions of Superman, and one of the greatest TV series that you will ever see with Superman, where he's wearing the suit, is Dean Cain as Superman. Superman, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. And then Brandon Routh, come on, man. Superman, this dude's iconic. Brandon Routh, all-time classic, Superman. And then for Batman, I'd say the gold standard is Kevin Conroy. And then you have, of course, Ben Affleck, Batman Begins, Christian Bale, and then Adam West, my favorite in terms of my first Batman, and he's the best, baby. And I'm going to leave it on that note. Adam West, the best Batman ever. And that's it. Okay, now, friends, I'll leave you with this thought from Qui-Gon Jinn as he spoke these words to Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, written and directed by George Lucas, an all-time epic masterpiece. Remember, your focus determines your reality. And may the Force be with us.